Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I am your host, Angie Grant, and for today's episode, I want to dig a little bit more into human design. I have over the past several months, I've shared bits and pieces about how I really view human design as really the most powerful parenting tool you can have in your tool belt. I find that parents, when they are desperately seeking how to resolve behaviors in their home or at school, that they want to know what that trick is, what that strategy is. And I think sometimes it throws people off when I suggest that actually knowing your kids is the strategy. In last week, I was chatting with the lovely Cassandra Quick, and we were talking about our role as leaders, as parents, and what that really means for us. And so today, I want to just share a few examples, and maybe some of these will resonate with what you're seeing in your home. If you have not yet grabbed your kiddos chart, I encourage you to pop on my website and grab a free chart. It's totally free. I also have a free report for kiddos. But at the end of the day, I want you to hear how really knowing our kids' human design not only helps us to see them better, but it puts us in a position to respond to their needs instead of reacting out of our own lens about how we think kids should behave. So I'm going to start by just retelling a story that I started to share with Cassandra last week during our episode as I was talking about a toilet incident. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that, really to help you see and understand the power of knowing what this little 3-year-old uh, is energetically designed to do so that we can anticipate and be prepared and understand her. Because when we can see her through this lens, we stop looking at it as misbehavior. We stop looking at it as she's breaking the rules or making bad choices, and instead can say, oh, wow, that is how she's designed to learn about life. So, the story I had shared, in case you didn't hear it, was the other night um, in my home. The one of the parents was taking the 3-year-old to bed. And I heard the parent from a different floor of the house say, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You can't do that." Something to that effect. We later heard that the 3-year-old had both of her hands deep in the toilet. I hope that it was a clean toilet, but I trust that the parent did an excellent job of cleaning her off. But when we're looking at our kids through our own lens of we don't put our hands in the toilet, which is a perfectly relevant rule. I'm not saying to scrap that rule. But when we look at it purely through that lens, then the only thing that we can see is that the child broke a rule. The child wasn't doing what we needed them to do, which is how most of us parent. So again, there's no shame here, there's no blame here. I'm just sharing perspective. Because what I know about this 3-year-old is that first and foremost, she's a manifesting generator type. And there are two really key things that I know about what she needs as a manifesting generator type. One, she needs to have the freedom to follow her creative flow. And I can hear you as you're listening saying like, okay, but toilet diving is not a creative flow. And I would I would encourage you to just stick with me for a few minutes because I do feel strongly that she was following that inner guidance that was telling her, let's see what happens if I do this. And this was to drop toy sharks from the bathtub into the toilet because they needed water, according to her. So that's the first thing that I know about the manifesting generator type is that she has this strong drive to do things that might not fit into anybody's box about how kids are supposed to behave or what they're supposed to do. The second key thing that I know about this manifesting generator type is that she needs to feel like she's in control over her own life, over her own decisions. And when she feels any resistance to that, well, she engages in power struggles. And so when, as as any most parents would, when she's told, you can't do that, we don't play in the toilet, right? She's more likely to buck back. She's more likely to argue back, fight back, get upset because she has this inner drive to follow her own flow. She has this inner drive to feel like she has control. And when that control is taken from her, it feels like a piece of her is taken away. So that's one thing that I know about this little girl is that she's a manifesting generator. The second thing that I know about this little girl is that she has a 3-5 profile. So what does that mean? Well, that 3, as part of her profile or her personality, the way she interacts with the world, that 3 is the experimenter. That 3 is designed to learn through doing. So while yes, she's great at asking a bazillion questions about, why this and why that and where did this go and how did that happen, right? She's great at asking questions. But at the end of the day, she learns through doing. I myself, I learn through watching. It is very much how I have experienced life. And now I see that reflected in my profile, which is a 2-5. But she's different than me. She learns through doing. And so when she had this nudge, this creative inspiration to make sure that the sharks from the bathtub had some water, she did it. She got her hands deep in the water with the sharks to see what would happen. It's part of how she's designed. And in the same way that you think about in a classroom, if there are kids who know the math answer without doing the work and they get it right every time or the vast majority of the time, and we force them to write out their work about how they got to that conclusion, we're essentially saying that what you know isn't right. Your knowing is wrong and it doesn't fit my way about how kids are supposed to be, which over time can have this impact on our kids that teaches them that what you know doesn't fit in my box and I need you to fit in my box. And so do it my way, which teaches them to not listen to their inner knowing, to not trust that they already know the answers. And that's not how I want to help facilitate this next evolution in our communities. I feel so strongly that it is our duty to empower our kids. And I think by knowing their design, it gives us this really cool insight about what they need to feel empowered. So I think about this 3-year-old, and to feel empowered, she needs to feel like her decisions matter. And I'm not saying that we let her dive in the toilet, right? That isn't at all what I'm saying. But we didn't know that this was going to be part of how she was going to experiment. Otherwise, we would have prevented it. But in knowing that, in the way that we respond to that, we get to decide if we respond in a way that empowers her or if we react in a way that teaches her to start shutting off that inner flow, that creative flow that's part of who she is. If we react to her, we teach her that her way of learning through doing that third line profile, if we react to her, we're teaching her, you better start learning the way that other kids learn, which is by listening to what I tell you. But that's not how she's designed. So when we see our kids through this lens, we have this beautiful power to help empower them. And then there's this third really key piece to this little girl. So her life's work or her incarnation cross is in her G center, her center for lovability and direction, which means that this little girl is on this planet to learn about self-love, to learn about unconditional love, to learn about what it means to be fully lovable when life is happening around her. And I think as the family who's holding this energetic fabric for her to learn and grow through, I think we have the power to help her learn that even when maybe you do something that goes against the grain of what we would want her to do, right? Like we don't want any of the kids diving in the toilet. But if we can respond to her in a way that says, even when I do something that the adults don't like or don't want me to do, I'm still totally lovable. When we can respond to her in a way that helps her settle even deeper in to her inner sense of direction and lovability, I think we're doing our part as leaders in this family to help her fully step into who she really is. So that's one example I wanted to share. The second example I wanted to share is I was talking with a parent, and perhaps I've shared this example before, but I'm going to share it here again today because I find it just so fascinating, so powerful. So I was chatting with a parent the other day, and what the parent said was, she said, my son seems to constantly be trying to shock people. He does, this is my word, I don't think the parent said obnoxious, but he does obnoxious things to get a rise out of people, to shock them, to get attention. And we were talking about mistaken motivations and, does she feel like he's doing it for attention? Does she feel like he's doing it to seek power? Does she feel like he's doing it out of inadequacy or revenge? And as we were talking and I was really listening to her, I said, "Well, let me pull up his chart." And lo and behold, his life's work, his primary energy, 70% of who he is the gate of shock. Her son is here on this planet to to shock others into changing the way that they think about the world. Right now, he's an adolescent boy, and the best way he knows how to shock people is to do obnoxious things because he's an adolescent and he hasn't learned how to fully step into his power. What I know is that he's a boy who feels this strong drive to shock. He feels this strong drive to get that shocking reaction out of others. The parent proceeded to say that when he feels accepted, when he feels um, more at peace, he doesn't do these things. But it seems to be his go-to strategy when perhaps he's questioning whether or not he fits in, whether or not he's being accepted for who he really is. And I said, of course, it makes so much sense, right? When he is feeling like it's not safe or okay to be himself, when he's struggling with that authenticity, he tests or tries to prove his energy theory through shocking others. And so my challenge for her was, what if you could help him step into shock in a way that's empowering for him, a way that doesn't get him in trouble, a way that doesn't create a shift in his most important relationships? But what if you could help him find ways to shock others, to initiate others, to think about things differently? Because that's what he has the power to do. He has the power to help people think about things differently. He has the power to help shift the way people think. But right now, he's using that energy to get a reaction because that's all he knows how to do. And he also, this young man, is also a couple of other things about him. He's a 2-5 profile. And so he really is designed to sit back and observe. And then when he's called out to share his gifts with others. And so I think that that's a really big part of this equation too, is that what is calling him out to engage in these shocking behaviors? Are there ways to call him out, to draw out that leadership energy from him? Both the 2 and the 5 really are waiting to be called out. So, one, what is calling him out to elicit that response in people right now? And two, what can the leaders, the adults in his life do to really be more intentional about calling out that shock energy in a productive way that is more empowering for him? Because I imagine as true to form, right? As an adolescent or pre-adolescent boy is getting um engaging in shocking behaviors, they're probably getting in trouble. They're probably getting negative attention. They're probably getting responses, but not the responses that help to instill a sense of pride or empowerment in them. So, what can we do about that? So, that's another example where really knowing our kids through their human design gives us a much clearer direction that isn't cookie cutter to really show up for our kids to help build their resiliency. Instead of trying to get our kids to fit into our box. Imagine when this young man grows up, when he becomes a young adult, if his caregivers can really help him step in to his power, how really crucial his energy could be to helping people to think and respond differently, and how much we need that right now. So, my next example that I want to share with you is um, another client that I work with who she is learning. She herself is a generator type, but her son is a reflector. And what she has experienced thus far is this young man who craves being around other people. He craves being with other kids. And yet it is the thing that can exhaust him the most. And so he through the way that they explain him, this is what I perceive is that he he wants to be with his friends. He wants to be at school. But because of his pure openness, he has a hard time shutting off energy, negativity, things that he doesn't want in his aura. He has a hard time shutting that off. And so he craves being with others. He absorbs other people's energy, and then he's depleted. And he doesn't know what to do about that. And he can't articulate what he needs because he's a kid and he doesn't fully understand this. And so it's this constant back and forth, really trying to support him when it seemed unclear what he was seeking. So, what if instead of this constant guessing game of what does he need today? How do we support him? What if instead parents were able to recognize this deep need for others and then start to implement practices to help him have practices to shed the energy of others and to start to have this awareness about what's his and what's not his? Because when we don't know these things about our kids, it just looks like they're overstimulated. They're um, struggling with self-regulation. They're maybe not ready to be in a social environment. Or what I see most often is that when we don't really understand our kids, it looks like they're misbehaving. It looks like they're being non-compliant about going to school or non-compliant to the teacher's instructions or non-compliant to do their homework. When if instead we could say, how do I help to support my child's energetic needs? Because this young man has beautiful gifts to share the world. He has the capacity to reflect back what we all are experiencing. But when he is so dysregulated because he doesn't know that he needs good practices to shut off other people's energy and to learn through other people's energy, then the result is a young man who is trying so hard to be with others because that's what he craves, and then feeling so depleted and really like pushing people away because he feels overwhelmed and he doesn't know what to do about it. So, what if instead his parents were able to see him, know him, and respond accordingly? That's the power that understanding human design has been having for this family. And it isn't an overnight process, right? It isn't like you suddenly learn, like, oh, my child is this type. I'll parent totally differently because not only do they have the own way that they've been parenting their kiddo for years, they have their own stories about parenting in general. There are two different parents who have conflicting parenting stories about how kids should be parented, how they themselves were parented. Then there's the pressure of school, there's the pressure of society, there's the pressure of social media, all compounding when they have this glimmer of doing it differently. And so my work with them is one chunk at a time. What if you started implementing this shift in your routine to help him shed energy? What if you started implementing this shift in your routine to advocate to school about what you know he needs, but you haven't had the words to express that to school before? That's the power of understanding human design, is really being able to take what we know about our kids, to see them and to respond differently. And then the last story that I want to share with you today is about a parent who um, we joke often about her profile type. So she is a 1-3 projector type. Um, so she's a projector type and then has a 1-3 profile. So she self-reflects often about her lack of sacral energy and how that really influences how she shows up for herself. And we also talk a lot and coach a lot around the idea of being a 1-3 profile. And she really needs to understand and research and know and take notes and map out what's going to happen. Where that isn't every profile type, right? Like I'm a 2-5 profile, as I said, and I just jump in and and I observe and I wait to be called out. But with her 1-3 profile, she really researches and investigates and takes notes and plans and is prepared and won't take action because that fear of not knowing enough, that fear of not being ready, that fear of, um, yeah, the fear of being inadequate, perhaps. That's how she approaches parenting and everything else in life, I'm sure. And she also has that 3 in her profile, which so the 1 and the 3 are they conflict with each other, right? The 1 wants to research and dig in deep, and the three's like, let's just try this and see what happens. And what I see with her and with others is this like researching and digging deep and wanting to know, but then also that 3, I think, really craves that interaction with others. The 3 really wants to experiment through life by having connections, trying things out, seeing how things work, all the while holding herself back because she feels like she doesn't know enough because of the 1. So that's her experience in life and the way that she views life, the way she views parenting. But then both of her kids have a 5-1 profile, which means that both of her kids are energetically more designed to sit back, observe, wait to be called out, right? There's the 1 and the 3 in mom, they're not waiting to be called out. They're just going and doing and experimenting and researching and not waiting for that moment of being called out. But both of her kids have a 5 as the first number in their profile. Both of her kids sit back and observe and wait for that invitation to be called out. And so imagine what that's like as a parent who's like, come on, let's go, let's do this, let's try this, let's see what happens, let's do a little research, let's be prepared. And then she has 2 kids who are like, wait, I I'm waiting for somebody to call me out. It's not my time yet. It's not my time to step out. It's not my time to jump in and socialize. and how really challenging that could be for a parent to see that what is wrong with my kids? Why are they not doing what I'm teaching them to do? Why are they not, jumping in and trying things out and seeing what happens? When we can see our kids through this lens of their design and really appreciate their unique learning styles, their unique interaction styles, their unique communication styles, their unique way to approach the world in a way that feels aligned for them, the results will be different for our kids and for ourselves and for our relationship with our kids. But if we continue to parent our kids through our own lens and getting them to fit into who we are and what feels good to us, there's a really good chance that we're going to miss the mark. And I don't say that to be cruel, right? My kids were both raised without me knowing a lick about their human design. And I did great things with them. And there's so much that I couldn't like resonate with it, or I couldn't put words to it, or I couldn't explain it. I didn't quite understand it because I didn't have any words for it. And so now seeing my kids through their human design, I'm like, oh, this is how I get to show up for them differently now that I know. So today was all about sharing some examples with you. And here's my super simple takeaway for you is go grab your kids' chart. It's easy peasy. If you just grab their chart, it will maybe some of the things I shared today will match your kiddo and you can see how that applies. But I really encourage you to grab the free report that's there. So I have I believe it's called Raising Resilient Kids. It's a free report and it will describe a little bit about type and profile to understand them a little bit better so that you can start making decisions about how you want to show up for your kids. It's what our kids are asking us to do, even though they don't have the words to do it. Their behaviors are saying, I need to feel seen. I need to feel like it's safe and okay to be who I really am. This is what our kids are begging us to do. So that's it for today. Yeah, I hope you found something interesting in this episode today. I know I love digging into designs, as you probably can hear. So that's it. And if you feel called to learn more about your kids and how to show up different, book a connection clarity call. I would love to help you and your family on this journey. So that's it. We'll chat soon.